Afghanistan, Abdul Jabbar. He was suspected of more than 300 murders, sentenced to death, and executed in 1970 after killing 65 men and boys by essaying them and strangling them with turbans. Algeria, Madeleine Mouton. A French serial killer known as the Berthelot poisoner, she poisoned 11 individuals, 7 of whom died. She was found guilty of these crimes, given a death sentence, and subsequently put to death. She was the only woman executed in French Algeria and the second to last French woman to be guillotined. Argentina, Robledo Puch. The Black Angel, often called the Angel of Death, was found guilty of 17 robberies, 1 instance of sexual assault, 2 kidnappings, 2 thefts, at least 11 murders, including the murder of at least 1 accomplice, 1 attempted murder, and complicity in 1 rape and 1 attempted rape. Australia, Eric Edgar Cook. From September 1958 until August 1963, this serial killer, known by the nicknames Nightcaller and Nedlands Monster, terrorized Perth, Western Australia. Cook was responsible for at least 20 violent offenses, 8 of which were fatal. After going on a murderous rampage for 4 years, Cook was apprehended and confessed to a number of crimes, including ones for which other people had been falsely convicted. The Supreme Court of Western Australia found him guilty of willful murder after a jury dismissed his claim of insanity. He received a death sentence and was executed at Fremantle Prison. Cook was Western Australia's final execution. Austria, Max Gaffler. He killed 4 women and he was suspected in up to 18 killings. He was apparently prone to angry outbursts after being hit on the head with a rock when he was 9 years old. Gaffler used matrimonial ads to attract his victims, who were then killed. Bahamas, Cordell Farrington. Between 2002 and 2003, he murdered his lover and 4 children. He was given a death sentence for the murder of 22-year-old Jamal Robbins, but due to his insanity, he was then given a second term of life in prison. Bangladesh, Roshu Ka. Roshu murdered at least 11 garment workers in Chandpur district because he was furious that his lover had rejected him. He killed them viciously after pretending to love them. He received a death sentence. Barbados, Mark Beckles. 4 confessed victims but suspected of several more. He took his own life with a shoelace in prison in 2003. Belarus, Gennady Mikashevich. Between 1971 and 1985, he looked into his own mission-driven killings of 36 women while volunteering for the police. In 1987, he was put to death. Belgian Congo, William Eunuch. He was slain by the police in 1957 after going on 2 mass killing sprees in Tanganyika and the Belgian Congo 3 years apart as a Ugandan police constable. Belgium, Michel Belen. He was a murderer who is regarded as the first serial killer in Flanders and is also known as the Strangler of the Left Bank. Between 1964 and 1982, he essayed and murdered 4 women in Leuven. He was given a death sentence, which was later changed to life in prison. In 2020, he passed away from heart failure while incarcerated. Bolivia, Ramiro Artieda. For financial gain, he murdered his brother in the early 1920s. After that, he moved to the US, but he eventually went back and murdered 7 women till 1938. In 1939, he was taken into custody, confessed, and was put to death by firing squad. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Edin Gacic. Between 1998 and 2019, he shot and killed 4 people, including a police officer and his mother. In 2019, security agents ultimately killed him. Brazil, Francisco das Chagas Rodrigues de Brito. He is a pedophile who, between 1989 and 2003, sexually assaulted, killed, and disfigured 30 to 42 young boys in Maranhão and Pará. He received a 217-year prison sentence for his crimes. Bulgaria, Sokrat Kirchveng. He gained notoriety as the killer with the ads and was given the death penalty in 1919 for the murders of 2 of his lovers. After his sentence was reduced to 17 years in prison, he killed his aunt and uncle-in-law in 1937. He was put to death the same year. Canada, Robert Pickton. He was charged with killing 26 women and he confessed to 49 murders in total. He was killed by a fellow prisoner in 2024. Chile, Julio Segundo Perez Silva. At least 14 women and girls were essayed and killed by this taxi driver in the northern Tarapacá region. He is a person of interest in 5 more disappearances as well. China, Chen Fuzhao. He was a dermatologist who mixed rat poison in drinks and then gave them to beggars. He was executed in 2024 by firing squad. Colombia, Daniel Camargo Barbosa. He was known as the sadist of El Charquito. He essayed and murdered 72 young girls, but he is believed to have killed as many as 180. He was killed in prison by a relative of one of his victims. Costa Rica, Adrian Arroyo Gutierrez. Known as the Southern Psychopath, he was convicted of raping and strangling 6 to 11 drug-addicted sex workers in San Jose and received a 110-year prison sentence. Croatia, Vinko Pintaric. Between 1973 and 1990, he killed 5 people, including his own wife. He managed to escape custody 3 times until he was eventually killed by police in 1991. Cyprus, Nikos Metaxas. He is a Cypriot army officer who committed the so-called Mitsero killings, killing 5 women and 2 children between September 2016 and August 2018. He was given a life sentence. Czech Republic, Petr Zelenka. He is a male nurse who murdered 7 of his patients with heparin lethal injections in 2006. He was sentenced to life in prison. Denmark, Peter Lundin. He killed his mother in the United States in 1991. Then 9 years later in Denmark, he killed his lover and her 2 children. He was given a life sentence. Ecuador, Juan Fernando Hermosa. He was the youngest serial killer in this country. Between 15 and 16 years of age, Hermosa was known as Niño del Terror because of his 22 killings in just 4 months, which included the deaths of 8 taxi drivers, 11 homosexuals, a truck driver and his friend, and 2 more people. Because he was so young, he only spent 4 years in prison and then he was released. The day he turned 20, he was found dead with his face disfigured and showing signs of torture. Egypt, Ramadan Abdel Rahim Mansour. Over the course of 7 years, he essayed and murdered over 32 children. He threw them off trains or he buried them alive. He was executed in 2010. Estonia, Johannes Andreas Hani, murderer, rapist, and cannibal who killed 3 people in 1982 before taking his own life while being held by the police. His wife helped him commit the murders. She spent 12 years behind bars, after which she changed her name, moved to Finland, and even wrote a book about all of this. Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland. David Thabo Simelane. He essayed and murdered 28 women in the span of 1 year between 2000 until 2001. He is believed to have committed over 45 killings. He received a death sentence. Fiji, Waisale Wakwanivalu. He bludgeoned 3 couples in 2003. 5 people died and 1 survived. He got 29 years in prison. He is considered the first serial killer in the country. Finland, Jukka Lindholm, also known as Michael Pentila. He was sentenced to life in prison and is presently contesting the ruling. He has served 25 years in prison between his murders. He killed 3 women in the Oulu area between 1985 and 1993 and 1 in Helsinki in 2018. He is the only Finn who meets the FBI's criteria for being considered a serial killer. France, Michel Fourniret. At least 8, maybe more than 12 young girls were abducted, essayed, and killed by the Ogre of the Ardennes. This happened in France and Belgium with the assistance of his wife, Monique Olivier. Germany, Niels Hogel. He was a male nurse who killed between 106 and 300 patients over the course of 5 years. He is serving a life sentence. Ghana, Charles Kwanzaa. He was convicted and sentenced to death for the strangling murders of 9 women, but suspected of killing 34. Greece, Petros Koulaxidis. Known as the Vampire of Hamelos, this Russian-born bigamist was executed in 1932 for killing at least 5 of his wife in Central Macedonia between 1917 and 1930. He also faced allegations of committing further killings, some of which may have taken place in Russia. Guatemala. José Miculax Bux, known as the Monster of Guatemala, he and his cousin Mariano Macum Miculax slaughtered 15 youngsters in 1946. He was publicly executed by firing squad. Hong Kong. Lam Kor Wan, sexual sadist who murdered and dismembered 4 women in the 1980s. He was initially sentenced to death but later commuted to life in prison. Hungary. Piroshka Young Solandani. Between 1953 and 1954, he strangled 5 teenage girls and molested their bodies after they were killed. He was executed in 1954. Iceland. Bjorn Pettersson. He was a serial killer from the 16th century who killed 9 travelers. He is thought to be the only serial killer of this country. India. Ravinder Kumar. Between 2008 and 2015, he kidnapped, essayed, and killed at least 15 children. After being caught on July 19, 2015, he admitted to killing 30 children in all. He specifically targeted poor families' children. The majority of his victims were between the ages of 4 and 6. Indonesia. Slamet Tohari. He is a con artist who between 2020 and 2023 poisoned at least 12 individuals in central Java. In 2024, he was given the death penalty. Iran. Farid Baglani. He is known as the cyclist killer, and he murdered 15 women and 1 boy over the span of 4 years from 2004 till 2008. He was executed in 2010. Iraq. Ali Asghar Borujerdi. He murdered 33 young adults for which he was executed in 1934. He was the first serial killer in this country from the 20th century. Ireland. Mark Nash. In 1997, he murdered 2 female patients and then a couple 4 months later. He received a life sentence. Israel. Nikolai Bonner. Immigrant who killed 4 homeless people in 2005. He burned their bodies after the murders. He is serving a life sentence. Italy. Donato Bilancia. He was named the Monster of Liguria. He murdered 17 people over the course of 7 months. He died in prison. Jamaica. Lewis Hutchinson. He was a Scottish immigrant who was hanged in 1773 after being found guilty of shooting numerous people in the 18th century. Japan. Hiroshi Maue. An Osaka man, dubbed as the Suicide Website Murderer, enticed members of suicide clubs with the promise that he was going to kill himself alongside his victims. He was put to death in 2009. Jordan. Bilal Musa and Susan Ibrahim. This is a couple who murdered 12 people to rob them between 1994 and 1998. Musa was executed in 2000, and a year later, in 2001, Ibrahim died in prison. Kazakhstan. Yuri Ivanov. He essayed and murdered 16 young women who he believed were insulting men. The crimes happened between 1974 and 1987, and he was executed in 1989. Kyrgyzstan. Viktor Selikov. He was named the Naked Demon, and he essayed women, at least 10 women, out of which he killed 3. He was executed in 1965. This is the end of part 1. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can also see part 2.